Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. Today we are reviewing The Pope's Exorcist. And for the first 20 minutes of this film, I thought it was actually doing some interesting things. It introduced the tone as something quite comedic, quite parodical, something quite self-aware. And also took some interesting routes into theological perspectives and introducing some quite interesting thematic ideas. And then the film very quickly subsides into your typical cliched horror Exorcist film. And basically I think this film could have been good had it gone down either of the two routes that it was sort of setting itself up with. I think it would have worked as a real over-the-top campy and pulpy horror film, and I also think it would have worked as a very nuanced psychological horror where they didn't necessarily buy into the supernatural. You just kind of have ambiguities and uncertainties, and take the more theological route of exploring the role of exorcists and exorcisms in today's world. It could have grown into something watchable. But then the film just kind of becomes a very generic demonic possession story and does nothing interesting with the characters or the narrative. Russell Crowe, I think, was half the reason I think this film would have worked as a very campy and over-the-top film. He plays Father Gabriel Amorth with a kind of dark humour to help kind of offset the seriousness of his work. And I think Russell Crowe's performance actually lends itself quite well to the film. And the couple of moments where he was kind of interacting with Satan through the little boy felt quite banterous and felt quite interesting from a philosophical perspective. Initially when I saw the trailer, I thought Russell Crowe looked a bit miscast in the role, but having watched it, I think he's pretty much the saving grace of the film. His performance is quite light-hearted, he's quite a rebel even in his own institution, and he's quite badass when he needs to be. The supporting cast are all completely forgettable because the script does nothing for them. And there's also nothing remotely scary about the horror in this film. I don't think exorcisms are scary, to be honest. The other thing that really got me was how sequel baity this film wanted to be. Kind of at the end it's revealed that there's a whole subdivision of the Vatican devoted to kind of exposing these places on earth where God's not allowed to be. And Russell Crowe basically accepting this challenge to go and purge all these locations of the demonic spirits. So at the end it kind of felt like they were trying to set up some sort of Vatican-inspired cinematic universe. And as a scene, I feel like that was quite an unnecessary tag on the film. I don't think it lent much to the mythology that they were trying to establish. So ultimately, The Pope's Exorcist is one of those films that hints at some really interesting directions and then infuriates you because it doesn't embrace those directions and opts for something much more cliche and bland. Thankfully at 90 minutes it's not a complete drag, but it's still not one that I would recommend actively going out of your way to pay and watch. So yeah, any kind of interesting notions of theological discussions get kind of brushed aside quite early on. Any notions of it being a really over-the-top, campy and fun film get drip-fed throughout the film but never fully explored, and you're ultimately left with something that feels just kind of half-baked and not fully embracing its concept. So if you have seen it, guys, do drop a comment below, let me know what you think. If you haven't seen it, don't bother. Please also consider liking and subscribing to the channel, guys. That's always a huge help for me. And in the meantime, we will see you for the next vid.